Welcome to the inaugural episode of What's on Your Mind with your host, Onya. In this episode, we get to learn all that there is about Miss Ilean Dover. She's what I would consider to be the closest thing to a drag mom I have ever had, or ever will have, because I'm getting old. I hope you enjoy. If you like it, please subscribe. I'll be posting at least once a month, if not more. So here she is, Miss Ilean Dover. Okay, so here's the first episode of What's on Your Mind with my guest, Ilean Dawn Dover.
Hello, kittens.
So it's the first one, so it's gonna be a little rough. So I apologize.
Everything Ilean does is rough.
Well, you should talk. That's just out of the bedroom.
It's like running over a dirt road. When did we get off the pavement? Just now.
Just now. Off-road. If you hear the nice little cutting noises that I'm making right now, I apologize. I'm making hips.
She's making a body. She has one, but she hides it.
I do. It's going to be interesting. So, what I like to accomplish, or what I would like to accomplish with my What's on Your Mind segments, is to get to know the queens, their history, how they kind of became who they are, and what some of like their favorite memories of, other queens or just in general. So like, big question is, how did you come up with Ilean?
So Ilean was invented because I knew that if I was going to be a drag queen, she was going to be someone from my roots and someone from my history.
Okay.
And that she was going to be a little trashy. And I grew up.
What part of your family is trashy?
I grew up in a rural part of Indiana, southern Indiana, and my family then moved to a trailer park in Tampa, Florida.
That explains everything.
So I know my trailer park culture, and I'm a little bit of a hillbilly. So Ilean was going to have parts of that. And I wanted
on the front yard.
And I wanted when people said Ilean's name for them to giggle just a little bit. So when they say Ilean Dawn Dover, generally it elicits a tiny bit of a giggle. Sometimes they try to suppress it, and then I encourage it.
Okay. So outside of that, do you have what are your other than just how you got your name, what are some major influences? Who do you credit you being you?
There are a couple of influences to how Ilean got her in the very beginning. Let's go back to the very beginning. It's a very good place to start.
How long have you been at the very beginning? How long has it been?
How long? So it's been about 7 years since I entered into an amateur contest where at the Hideaway down in Rock Hill, that they would take a queen and or a boy, regular boy, and they would dress him up in drag and see what he could do.
Okay.
So it was their gender bent is we're drag queens and you're a queen for a night, and I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
And I was first ever painted by Miss Jessica Rain's Star. She was a pageant queen. I found her to be beautiful. She did impressions of Cher and all manners of other things. And I became infatuated. So between her and the show hostess down at the Hideaway, Miss Michaela Duchat, they were two of the very first. Then after that, I didn't do a whole lot with it because I didn't know how to paint my own face. It had always been done by somebody else. And I didn't have body, and I didn't have this, and I didn't have that. So I started acquiring things, and I started watching the queens more closely as they performed. I distinctly remember something that fueled and backed who Ilean is the first time I saw Buffet perform down at the Hideaway. She did Cher's Bang Bang. during their Thanksgiving show. And she came out dressed like a turkey. And at the end of her routine, she did a death drop. And it was just a flurry of feathers came up in the air. And it was the funniest thing to me. I was like, I want to be a comedy queen. I want to be a funny queen. I'm not going to be the glamour queen. And I'm not going to be a dancing queen. So this is going to be my road and my route. And after that, I entered into another contest where they had somebody who painted me.
Yes.
And that would be Miss Brandy Andrews. She painted me after that, and then Miss Bella Nicole Jade for Stephen C's Men of Petras. And I was in several seasons of Men of Petras. There's 3 in all, and you can find my YouTube videos if you search Men of Petras and Ilean Dover. You will see some of the earliest sightings of Miss Ilean Dover.
Nice. Okay. So you named a couple of queens. I know Buffet and Bella Nicole Jade. Those ones I know are still around. Are a lot of the other ones, are they still performing? Did they retire? Are they still...
A lot of them... So I also used to go to Scorpio because they have fabulous shows. And I was struck by, now her name escapes me, Brooklyn Dior. And Brooklyn Dior is probably one of the oldest drag queens in town. And they say occasionally she shows up and performs for things, but not as much as she's gotten a little bit older. But then there's also Gypsy Star.
Oh, of course.
And Gypsy Star... I learned so much from her, and she can give you tips when you go to Morris Costumes about your makeup and your this and your that, and she'll give you her straightforward opinion, and her being straight with you is probably the best thing anybody could do. I don't want anybody to ever say that was great when it wasn't.
No, I've Gypsy definitely gives it. Oh, like 100%. Like I've gone in a few
sometimes
times.
It might be hard.
Oh yeah, no. I've never had a hard moment with her, but she definitely is always excited to help, which is nice because I came in with a costume idea that I wanted to do for my first solo on stage performance was for Beth Amphetamin's Going Away Party, and I had originally wanted to do what was the song? I can't remember the song, but I wanted to do like a Black Widow costume because I had the bodysuit, I had the hair, and I was just looking for like utility belts and this kind of stuff. And so she was like, "Oh yeah, no, we have all this stuff up," and she's always excited to help, which is fantastic. Considering there's a lot of stigma in the drag community about, well, we're not going to help you because you're not part of us type thing.
Right, and I don't. I've had new queens come up to me and go, "I want you to help me," and I'm like, I always felt like I wasn't on par with the other queens that they could ask, and then I started realizing something. The other queens have turned them down as well, so it's time for us to help each other out. It's time for us to be a little bit more welcoming to new entertainers and not afraid of it.
Aw, is that why you said yes to me?
Yes. Yes. You're as close to a daughter by in vitro fertilization as I've ever had.
It was definitely a swallowed mistake.
Oh, Lord Jesus.
So, little backstory. So, I met Ilean in Eileen's form about a year and a few months ago. She had just signed on to be a full-time co-host for Drag Trivia on Tuesdays. Lo and behold, I didn't realize I was also going to be on her dodgeball team for Stonewall Sports. So there was complete disconnect, which most queens rarely look like who they are as a boy, unless you fall into the transgendered, non-binary, whatever you want to call it, spectrum. There's very few that you'll be able to tell. Right. And she was one of them. Now that I know her, I don't know how I thought that.
Because I'm not what they call fish. Some of the ones that are fish both in the daylight and at nighttime. So
yeah, she's more like rotted.
Yeah, yeah. Look, she's straight out of the trailer park. Look, the only thing that makes her think she's come up in the world is that Ilean has a brick underpinning on her trailer and the wheels are off. That's it.
It's solid.
That's when you've made it in the trailer park. Whenever they look around and go, girl, she got brick underpinning. She either got a new job or a sugar daddy, one of the two. She ain't working at the packing factory no more.
Well, depends on what you call packing factory.
Well, in our trailer park, everybody was packing fudge. Anyway,
Lord,
that was too far, Ilean. It was too far. It's always too far with Ilean over.
Yes. It's never one of those moments where you're like, was that a line? Oh yeah, no, about 50 yards back. Just zoom right past. It's fine.
Yeah, lines and boundaries. Because with the beautiful thing is my friend asked me if I could be a scoring person for her trivia, and I knew Lana, and I had been to her trivia, and I was like, can I do it in drag? And she said, why not? That sounds like a fabulous idea. She didn't know what I was going to do to the show. Because it went from being very family friendly to, hold on, Gertie, you're going to watch yourself. It's basically, it's adult humor. And I figured we're in a bar that you have to be 21 to get into. So if I curse a little or say something that makes you a little uncomfortable, you're grown.
You can handle it like a big boy.
You got this.
Or girl.
I do try to be respectful to a degree. Eileen's always going to say things that are stupid. And people started to recognize that with her level of education, this is the best she's gonna do.
Yes.
So I like to say she's part of the One Child Left Behind program, and she was that one child.
She was. It was a tragic day.
Yeah, she made it to 5th grade. She's the smartest person in her trailer park. It just is what it is.
Oh, Lord. Okay, so you started doing pageants.
I've done two bar pageants. I've never done any of the major pageants, like the All-American Goddess or
Entertainer of the Year.
Or Entertainer of the Year. There's about 4 major pageants, and I think one day I will. I'll gear myself up for it, but I'm gonna need a lot of support and a lot of friends. So and
a new face.
And a new face. Well, the one time I did a pageant, or 2 times I did a pageant, I had a friend paint my face, just because I knew my skills and I knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
So I knew that I needed some assistance, and so my dear friend Miss Lola Lovelace, she agreed, and she took care of me, and it was amazing. And my very first pageant was at the Hideaway, competing for Miss Hideaway, and for me it was kind of a magical experience, because you would have thought I won the whole pageant because I won one category, and that was it. And that was onstage question. I won onstage question, and you would have thought I was Miss America at that moment, because I'm just beaming and I still have the trophy, and it's in my bedroom on one of our display shelves in our bedroom, and yeah, it was a special moment for me, because the onstage question that I answered was, what does the Hideaway mean to you? And I got almost misty-eyed and teary, because it was a true story, and it was something that came from the heart. So it was a heartfelt answer, and it resonated with the judges, I guess. The thing I knew was I've never been the greatest speaker, but I always knew if I spoke from the heart that it would be my best, and that was what I gave that day, and it's got me a trophy, so I'm happy.
Aww.
I'm excited. I mean, it was like, and and I had never done hair much, and I knew in evening gown, typically the girls did these fancy updos, and I managed to do what was respectable updo for my pageant, and it was, I was proud of it, and I was proud of when I look back at the pictures and I look on stage at the pictures, I feel like I was right on par with those girls. I felt like I held my own, and that's important.
Which is good for your first pageant, because that's the worst, I feel. Like, that's why I don't know how or when. I know I'll probably do one at some point in time, because I feel like every drag queen should do one.
Yeah.
Just to experience it.
Yeah.
But that's just, it sounds terrifying.
The experience is, it's terrifying, it's fun, it's exciting, and it's all those things together. When you're... I was a raging bitch for the whole week, and my husband was like, when you're in pageant mode, I just have to stay out of your way. You're like this drag hurricane. And it's like I was nervous. I wanted everything to be perfect and everything to be right. And my second pageant, I decided to sing live, and I sing a lot of karaoke anyway, and I was proud of it. And there were some people who were like, that was ballsy, and no one that I know has ever won who sang live at a pageant. I was like, there's always a first time.
Well, and how long ago was this?
That was about 5 years ago.
Okay. So, just to put it, like, there's always been those queens that do their singing. They sing live. There's always...
No, that was 4 years ago. The first one was 5 years ago.
Okay. But even now, so 4 years ago was probably right around the second or third, maybe fourth season of RuPaul's Drag Race, where RuPaul has kind of taken it and made it so, as a queen, if you're going to come on the show, you need to know how to sing. And so, outside of that, like, it's not a common thing. Like, just because everyone thinks drag, you should be lip syncing or singing, lip syncing. I always get it mixed up.
Yeah.
Because I only know of one other queen in Charlotte that does live, and well, she doesn't even live here anymore.
Yeah, there were a few queens around town that were live singing queens, and Roxy Seymour Cox, now delighted to be here. It was one of, I idolized her, and I never felt like I had that kind of singing talent, but I do feel like at some point I want to do what the parody queens do, because again, I like being the comedy queen, and there's people like Jackie Beat and Lady Bunny and others that just, I fall on the floor and I literally am crying when I listen to what they do, and crying with laughter. It's what I want to do, and I've started like about a half dozen parody songs. I've never completed any of them. So
I've heard a few of them.
So I did for this past Christmas at trivia, I did do a parody of Mary Did You Know, which it was better than I thought it was going to be. But yeah, it made people laugh, and I want to bring joy to people's faces, and I think that's why I do what I do.
Yeah.
I like when my audience has a good time, and I like for a minute for them to forget about their job sucks, or this is happening, or mom's sick, or whatever might be their problems of the day. I want them to come to a show and have a good time.
Of course. I mean, that's kind of what drag is for anyways.
Yeah.
I mean,
some people use it as an expression of, whatever, and they do want to entertain, but there are some drag queens I feel like that they're more into themselves and what they're presenting than they are to their audience. Not all, and it's probably fewer in number than not, but there's sometimes where you can tell this queen doesn't care about her audience, and I don't want to be that queen.
Oh, of course. I mean, and going off of the artistic aspect of it, I mean, hell, I know a few straight men that do drag that do it purely because it's an art form, and they don't think of it any differently than putting on a face and going on stage and doing Shakespeare, or maybe not that high quality. I mean, it's
somebody
the one I know is in Fargo, North Dakota, so I don't know if there's really a lot of calls for Shakespeare there.
Somebody asked me, they were like, straight men do drag? I was like, why couldn't they?
Yeah.
I was like, I could easily put on a Cowardly Lion costume and perform on stage. How is that different? I'm not a lion.
Mm-hmm. But there's a stigma. There's a huge stigma that you have to
because
guys.
Because drag queens were born out of the transgender movement early. Because there was no distinction back in the day. When the Stonewall riots happened, there wasn't a distinction between what was transgendered, or at the time what they called transvestites and drag queens. There wasn't really a distinction.
Yeah.
There wasn't people like me who, I'm proud to be a man, I'm proud to be a gay man, and I'm also proud to be a drag queen. But I was born a boy, and that's who I am. And I've always felt like that. People who are transgendered, their outsides don't match their insides, and it's not for me to say anything about that, because I've never lived their life. And
of course,
the transgender drag queens I know are some of the most incredible entertainers that I've ever seen, and I've learned so much from them. And I sometimes ask them questions, and I say, I don't know. And there's a lot I don't know. And they'll answer my questions honestly, and they would it's thank you for dialogue, because you didn't decide to make up answers on your own about who I am as a transgender woman and who I am as a drag queen. And that's opening up the conversation and having the dialogue is probably
the most
important, and that's how we grow together instead of growing apart.
Well, and that's another thing too, is that some people don't understand that even for transgendered women who are drag queens, there is a disconnect. They are not one and the same. She is transgendered, she does drag. Like there's a difference. Just like I am a boy who does drag.
And there's a million transgender women who have no desire to perform.
Oh God, no. Yeah.
There are a million transgender men who have no desire to perform, and then there are many who do. Mm-hmm. And it's the performance is separate. We do that because our love of the stage, and whoever you are and how you were born, that is separate. It's not the same. It's the E6000.
She's picking at my table.
It's the E6000 that I spilled on the table. We were crafting earlier.
Yes, we designed our outfits for what will have come and passed by the time I think I get this up. But for our upcoming trivia show, that you can see us at least all three of us for a couple months at least.
Yeah, for probably the foreseeable future, because our old DJ has gotten a new job, and he also happens to be my husband.
Yes.
So it was wonderful that this happened. Our hostess, Miss Lana Kane, co-hostess of Drag Trivia at Petra's, had gotten ill and asked us if we would take it for a couple months, and we hosted, and we had a blast. And then it was time for Lana to come back, and that was about the time we lost our DJ, so we're privileged to have Onya with us.
Perfect timing. So now what was I gonna ask? So along with your drag career, you obviously have been married now for
a little over a year.
I was gonna say it's been a little over a year.
Yeah.
How, like, in the dating world, because that's a big thing with, I've seen with queens not being able to, or they hold it as a stigma or a barrier for some queens that they can't meet a decent guy because they were, they perform on stage.
I will say there's stigmas around it. And I very much, I'd had people tell me, they were like, are you sure you want to do this, as I was getting started, because your life dating is going to be difficult? And I'd always ask them why. Why is it difficult? Why is it hard? Why can't someone who loves you separate this from that? And they were like, it's just hard. And they were like, we don't know the answer to that.
No.
And I know a couple of drag queens in long-term relationships, but by and large, I know a lot of drag queens that don't. And they do find it to be difficult, and it's troubling to me, and I feel like I'm in a lucky position that I found somebody who didn't care. This part of my story of me and my husband is, we met because a mutual friend brought him into the bar where I sing karaoke, and we struck up a friendship. And I'd added him on Facebook, and he saw I had created a week-long list of events on Facebook of everything that I was going to do the week of my birthday. And it started with karaoke on Tuesday, and then karaoke on Wednesday. And Thursday I didn't have anything because I was getting ready for my big birthday show that Ilean was hosting at the Hideaway.
Okay.
And Ilean had her big birthday show. I had some of my great friends, drag kings and drag queens alike, perform. And it was wonderful. And he showed up. And he came, and I saw him in the audience, and I remember thinking to myself, I was like, I didn't think I had a shot with this boy, but there's something special. He came to see me like this.
Yeah.
And he didn't care about drag, and he didn't care about anything, but he came to see me. And he doesn't always understand or have an affinity for Ilean, but
yeah.
He loves me, and that's the thing is, I hope every drag queen finds someone who loves both sides of them. Because he does love but not fully understand Ilean.
No one understands her.
No,
she barely makes sense.
Nor could they. She's a special one, but she has this thing, like you said, she's hard to understand, but there's something that people told, they were like, I relate. There's somebody in my family, there's someone down the line, or some crazy lady in a trailer park that I know that Ilean is just like that lady. And it's cool, and I'm like, yeah, because everybody, when you create a character and out of real experience, there's a chance that someone that is a character just like that has crossed the path of people that you're going to see. But back to the question of relationships, I thought that it was going to be way harder than what it turned out to be.
So how did it, outside of like him coming to your birthday show, had you talked to him about it before? Or was it just kind of like something, when it gets to that road, you'll cross it?
Yeah, that was the way it was. It was like, we'll get to this road when we cross it. And like I said, he didn't care for the week that I was crazy over a pageant. But as I started doing trivia, and as he was part of it, and he saw how much joy it brought me, because it brings me joy, and for a moment I get to step out of my own personal reality into the reality of Ilean Dover, and when you're able to do that, that's just fun for me. And he saw the joy that it brought to me, and because he loves me, it it is important to him too that I have joy in my life. So my hope for every drag queen and every performer is that they find someone who sees what they find joy in and supports it, and he does. He's supported what I find joy in.
Yeah.
I have an entire sort of room that's it's a storage closet, but it's big. That's dedicated to her. That he set up my racks and he set up all of my storage and everything, just so that she has a place that is organized. And then this past Christmas, he bought me my makeup case, which I find is amazing. And he'd been telling me for months that he had bought me the perfect Christmas gift. And I love my husband, but my husband has not always gotten the best Christmas gifts. But this year he outdid himself. He went above and beyond, and it was, when I opened it, it was everything that I wanted. And it works fantastically well. Not every venue you go to when you have to paint your face is going to have adequate lighting to get you there.
That's for damn sure.
And that's one of the things that I've learned above anything else of doing drag over these past years is that you got to be able to see that face. Nobody wants to see a drag queen that looks like she painted it in the dark, even though people still say that about Ilean. It could be true. She paints like Helen Keller. She's just just feeling her way through it. It's a horrible joke.
Oh God!
I'm sorry that I made you laugh.
Okay, so now as you about your history, you're kind of through that. What are some of your what drives you? Like, what do you have a favorite charity? Do you like what kind of, how do you stay involved with the community?
Staying involved with the community, I do have some favorites, and some of them are new to me. I'm looking forward this year to going back to Time Out Youth and performing for their annual Pride Week Pride Dance for the kids. There is something about the very first time that Ilean performed for the kids of Time Out Youth. I was not sure how she would be received, and they were so warm. I mean, the attention and the cheers from these young kids that just want to live authentically and supporting this old drag queen. It was wonderful, and it made my heart so, like, all the kids wanted to take pictures with me, and all the kids were rushed up on the stage, and they were so attentive. And a lot of times drag queens, when they perform, they're performing for tips. That night I was performing for love, and that was what I got. I got it in spades, and I got it in a way that will forever stay with me. And the next year, which was last year, that I performed again, I got the same feeling, and it was the same rush. It wasn't like it was a fluke, and I have this feeling that every time I'm in front of those kids, I'm going to have that feeling. And then I got to stand back and just watch these kids dance and dance authentically. And if they were a boy that wanted to dance with a boy, they got to dance with that boy.
Yeah.
Which it might not be their reality anywhere else outside of Time Out Youth, but in this place and in this space, they were able to be true to themselves. And I, as a kid growing up, I didn't have that safe space. I didn't have that. And I have to say to Rodney Tucker and everyone else associated with Time Out Youth, I will always be one of the biggest supporters of what they do, because it's so important and it's something that kids need. And to see that they recently got some enhanced funding that will help them continue the important work they do brings joy to my heart. And I'm hoping that I am once again asked to come back this year for their Youth Pride Dance and perform at that. I performed at a bunch of different charities, but that's the one that probably sticks out in my mind as being the one that I because I've done things for Campus Pride. There's I hope I'm saying this right. The Alley 40 Center in New York, that is also a shelter for LGBT youth, was damaged in the floods in New York.
Gotcha. For Hurricane
Sandy, yeah. And I was asked to perform for that, and I was so thrilled to be part of something like that and to give back to and support an organization that does the important work that they do.
Very nice. Okay. Well, there's so many things that I had that I planned to ask. I need to write these things down for the next time we do these. So, of course, you perform regularly for Drag Trivia, which is every second Tuesday of the month. Do you have any other shows coming up that you know of off the top of your head?
I know of off the top of my head. I have a friend that is going to the All-American Goddess at Large, and she was putting out if there were queens that would be able to perform. I may have passed the deadline to get back to Sierra Nicole, but I also like to support other performers because pageants are not cheap. When you look at those gowns, a lot of these girls are spending thousands of dollars on their gowns and hundreds of dollars on their hair and all of this. And so they'll do fundraisers, and I like to support those whenever the time comes, whenever there's a queen that's like, hey, can you be part of this for me? And it's an important thing.
Oh, understandable.
Yeah.
So who, this is gonna kind of put you on the spot and not hopefully make other people feel lesser, but who are just some people that you see on Facebook that you're just like, when they put out an event, you're like, I have to see them perform? Is there anyone, doesn't have to be local, it can be national, it could be whatever, but are there any names that you just...
I will say this. I see that Willem's coming to town, and look, that queen makes me giggle, and if I can make it, I will. I have worked behind the scenes to help be an assistant whenever some of the RuPaul girls come through town, and there's been so many talented queens, but I think one of my favorites was from all the way from New York City and was on RuPaul's Drag Race. Bob the Drag Queen was one of my biggest pleasures because just in and out of drag, just a beautiful soul. And I have to say, just that was so much fun. It didn't feel like work. I did what I do for every drag. I ran and got water. I got a drink if they needed a drink. I got whatever it was they needed. But I was doing that and trying my best not to fangirl out because that wasn't my job of the night.
Because that was right after she had been crowned, correct?
Yeah, that was shortly after, I believe. No, there was a fair bit of time that after that. I think it was 6 months after she'd been crowned, something like that.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I mean, just down to earth and just a good person. There have been some drag queens that were a little bit harder to work for, a little bit more demanding, but all in all, like being an assistant and being on that side, I enjoy doing that too.
Yeah,
it's fun for me being of service to them. But like I said, that Bob the Drag Queen was so much fun to be around.
So because you've worked on both sides, in drag and behind the scenes with drag queens, what would you consider, like, what are your words of wisdom for not just like up and coming queens, but just in general? Maybe more pointed towards the up and coming ones, but
I will say this. I will say that this is universal, whether or not you've been doing it for a long time or you're getting into it new. Do what you love, and make your art something that comes from your heart. Make it what you love. If you're doing it out of compulsion, it's going to be like any other job, and it's going to come across real shitty.
Mm-hmm.
And I speak plain because honestly, that is the truth. But when you do something from the heart, and it goes back to that first pageant that I was in, those answers and those words came from my heart. And the tears that came, that was heartfelt. That was, it wasn't something that I generated. It was, I loved that place because that place gave me a place of safety when I was fresh and a brand new gay. I didn't know anywhere and I didn't know anybody, and when I walked in their doors, they made me feel safe and loved. And you'll always feel that at the Hideaway. And I have to say, is like, do what you love and love what you do. Be proud of you.
I think that's perfect. And on that note, I thank you for being my first guest.
Thank you.
On What's on Your Mind. And hopefully you guys will come out and see both of us the second Tuesday of every month. And follow our Facebooks. I'll have her links and everything posted so you can keep in touch. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Hop on over to our website at www.onyaofficial.com. You can also like and subscribe to follow future episodes that will be posted monthly. Till next time, this is Onya.